So this is Rise Lab.
Wow, okay.
And you're welcome by the site of our RoboCup project.
That's fascinating. What do they do?
These are the soccer playing robots that I was telling you about, and like they play autonomous soccer against another robot team, and they are the first and the only team from South Asia ever to qualify for the highest league of RoboCup international competition.
Right.
That's the Robotics World Cup.
So they actually play soccer?
Yeah, they do. They
Okay.
do. So this is a small demo in which the robot will actually first welcome you, and then it will follow a ball.
Hello, and now, welcome to Rise Lab, SM and NUST.
Okay.
So now it's going to,
Show me the ball.
it's now going to follow the ball.
Okay.
So whichever way we take it, there's no pre-programmed movement, and the robot itself, when it sees the ball going in a certain direction, it follows the ball as long as it's in its frame of reference. So you see, in the field, the robot must detect where the ball is, where the goal is, where the lines are, and it must detect where it is standing in the field at any given time.
Okay.
It's lost track of the ball. Okay, now it's seen it again. And when the ball is far from the robot, it actually tries to, walk faster. When it comes closer, it becomes slower, and it will stop right in front of the ball in this demo. But in real game, it will also kick the ball and pass it on to its colleagues or something like that.
Okay.
Would you like to try?
Okay, what do I do?
You can show the ball and the robot will follow you.
Okay.
You can do this with your feet or with your hands, whichever way you like it.
Like
Yeah,
this? Okay.
yeah, it will follow you. Wherever the ball goes, it's going to follow you. Yeah, it's lost track of the ball. Just bring the ball in front of it,
All right.
like this. Once it sees the ball again. Because it has two cameras looking at the field at the same time. One is at the top, the other is at the bottom. And it is trying to find where the ball right now is.
Okay.
So to keep the demo rolling, we have programmed it in this way that it should actually keep seeing the ball and following it, rather than just kicking it to somewhere outside the field.
Okay. Okay, so that's what you program right now. that
Yeah,
follows
this is
the
just the
ball.
demo for now. Yeah. And we'll show you, of course, in the video, we'll give you how the whole
they
robots are
actually
playing
play,
together.
Exactly.
Yeah. And in the field, there are other robots which are part of its own team, and yet other robots which are part of the opponent team.
Okay.
So, the robot has to distinguish which robots are from its own team, which
teammate.
robots are from some other team.
Yeah, okay.
And then make its own decisions that, for example, if it's going to pass the ball, what's the likelihood that if it passes the ball towards one of the robots, the other team will not get it? Which player is in the best place right now in the field to which the ball could be passed?
Okay.
And as per the rules of the competition, there is very limited communication between the robots that they are allowed.
Wow, okay.
So they have to be more or less autonomous to play on their own.
Okay, so
This
there
is
are
why-
actual rules about what they can communicate with each
Yes,
other.
indeed.
Okay.
They publish a new rule book every year, which has few upgrades from before. So we are working on a lot of new stuff, of course, like, for example, detecting the presence of other robots, for example, just with the sound of their feet, for instance. So we're working on those kinds of algorithms too.
Wow, okay. So you're doing this as well as being the chairman of the National
Of course,
Center. You're
of
still
course.
a professor developing all this?
Yeah.
Okay.
This
wow.
is also artificial intelligence, and these work technically this work is work on coordinated work of multiple agents working together for a certain cause. So that can be useful, for example, for disaster management.
So let's get started with finding out more about you and your journey and everything you've been through to get to where you are right now, doing all this amazing work.
Thank you.
I'm seeing in your lab you've got so many different types of projects going on. Hello and welcome to Sky's the Limit, and I'm your host Sharmeen Ali. Today we have for you a very interesting and a very special guest. His name is Professor Dr. Yasar Ayaz, and he's the chairman for the National Center for Artificial Intelligence. He's also a professor at NUST University, National University for Science and Technology, and he's a professor of robotics and artificial intelligence. He's been the founder of many different programs and activities here in the university and nationally. So let's talk to him and find out more about him and his journey and what he plans to do next and what he's doing right now. So thank you so much, Dr. Yasar, for being with us on our program today. And it's really it's wonderful for us to have you, because it's great for our viewers to see all the work that you've done, and so that we're able to actually speak to you face to face and ask you about all your work and what you plan to do in the future, because artificial intelligence is a very futuristic type of thing. And Pakistan being a developing country with our limited resources and all, and you have all these brilliant minds, how do you bring them out, etc. It's a very tough job, and you're the chairman for the Center of Artificial Intelligence.
Thank you for having me on the show. And as you said, it's very true that artificial intelligence is a very futuristic area. Our youth is very excited to take part in artificial intelligence, and like every time there's a conference or there's a seminar, we organize an activity, or we go to any activity in which students have organized, there are always aspects related to artificial intelligence which the youth is interested in. And like a lot of people are like getting specializations in artificial intelligence related fields, and also seeking jobs internationally which pertain to the field of AI. Right. I think it's a tremendous opportunity. In numbers, Forbes says that artificial intelligence market would grow to about $15.7 trillion US contribution to GDP by the year 2030. So that's a huge number, and Pakistan should certainly benefit from it.
And what do you think would be the potential for Pakistan?
I think it would be awesome, because like the thing is that as they say, the data is the new oil. The refinery for that data is the AI algorithms that we can make. If it comes to hardware, even if we don't have all the hardware installed in Pakistan, we can make use of cloud services and AI-based servers, the AI-focused servers, the cloud computing facilities located abroad like Amazon, Google, and other stuff made by NVIDIA. So we can make use of them to run those algorithms, as long as that data is not sensitive and it can actually be housed on a foreign cloud and processed there and brought back. Our own algorithms can use those services and provide artificial intelligence based products and services for Pakistan and for other countries as well.
Right, okay. So we'll get into more detail about artificial intelligence, its future in Pakistan. However, we want to start with you, because this is a program about you, very mashallah se highly accomplished individual and all, who's done a lot of work in this field in Pakistan. So let me ask you first. Now, you started off, you're from a family from Lahore, and a very sort of comfortable, nice life with a family of civil servants, educated people. So tell us about where you grew up, where you went to school and all. Were you always into robots and playing with such things when you were young? Was it an interest you always had, or did it develop over time?
I think that one thing in which I was, most of the time I could identify myself as different compared to other students at school, was that I always used to try to read, explore and study outside the book. So not just the book, but I used to wonder about concepts, reason about them, read stuff which is outside the book as well, and explore science on my own. Like computer programming, I picked up the hobby from my brother. My elder brother was in a computing club when he was in his college. He was at Dr.Yasar Ayaz. I also joined that college later on. But first, my schooling in Rawalpindi was at Jinnah Preparatory School, and then at Siddiq Public School. And then I went to Dr.Yasar Ayaz before I joined NUST as an undergraduate student. But even in my school years, looking at my brother, and he used to do the programming, and I used to watch him. So I got inspiration from him, and I started learning some programming firstly from him, and then reading on my own as well. So I think I wrote my first program in QBasic. QBasic was the language available at that time. We didn't, in my first computer that I started using, there was no Windows. There was this black screen with MS-DOS there, and QBasic used to load. Like we could use, you load a blue screen and start programming on that. So I wrote the first program, I guess, when I was in 5th grade. And I even first it was simple programs which used to communicate with the user on text and process some of the data. And I went up to even making animation on my own. So I used to program like trains and cars and things like that to making on my own and animate their movement on the screen. Wow. So later on, when I joined engineering and I was studying robotics, I was really fascinated by a lot of sci-fi movies and stuff and how robots work. So this was a genuine interest that I developed.
And those kind of things.
Not necessarily destroying everything, but I thought that robots have a good potential of becoming helpers, human helpers. Actually, that's what the word robot means. In 1930s, when it was first coined by a Czech author, I'm forgetting his name, in a play in UK. So at that time, robots were human-like figures that actually help people in the household. Right, so there are the pictures and stuff you can find on Google if you search for that, which people have drawn what the play was like. So it was people wearing shiny clothing as if they were made of metal, and they were portraying as if they are mechanical machines helping a household do their tasks. So a robot, the word robot means menial labor. So it is supposed to help us in tasks. For example, if a mason is working to build a house, and he has to carry a whole big lot of bricks, on his back and carry them to the second floor, it's really harmful for his health as well. But if a robot can do it, so this helps his health. A lot of people say that robotics maybe is not required for Pakistan, but I think that they're overlooking the fact that even for our people's health and well-being, technology is as much required as it is required for foreign countries. Our people deserve an easy life as much as they do. And if we do develop local technology here in Pakistan, it would ease the life for them.
Right. You mentioned like movies that inspired you and all. I mean, as a kid, I can remember watching Star Wars and how they had R2-D2 and C-3PO doing all these different technical tasks for, Luke Skywalker and all. I found it so cool that in the middle of space, the robot is going and fixing the spaceship when it's, that kind of a thing. So like you're saying, they can help people. That actually made you think that, okay, they can be helpful to people and all. So what you're saying right now is that in Pakistan, people who, for example, are working under harsh or tough conditions, their life can be made easier by the use of robots.
Even in a regular kitchen, there's a very well-known robot called Molly. It is a two-armed robot which actually, it drops down from the roof and it works in the kitchen. So it can, if you cook in front of it, it can learn from your cooking and it can cook whatever you're making. So for ladies who spend all the time in the kitchen in the scorching sun outside, and our kitchens don't even have air conditions most of the time installed there. So if a device can learn how to cook, and there are other scientists, for example, there have been products, international products to make rotis, to make chapatis. One of the inventions that really transformed the kitchen automation in East Asia was a rice cooker. And it's flooded from there to many other parts of the world. So there are other engineerings for simple, there was an article actually in 2007 which Bill Gates wrote in a magazine called Scientific American. The article was titled "A Robot in Every Home." So what he was saying is that by the year as early as 2025, in the developed world, you won't find any home where there is no robot. So robot vacuum cleaners are now cheap and affordable.
Yes, that Roomba that goes around and cleans your house and all.
Exactly. And Roomba is a relatively expensive one. You can get cheaper ones made in China. So then there are ones for cutting the grass and other stuff, and lots of robots are around which can do a lot of menial labor for you.
Absolutely. Wow, that's very interesting. So so you went to NUST and you studied here. You were a student here and you're right here back again. You've gone through a whole journey after being a student at NUST. You went abroad for a little while. You were in Japan.
Yes, I was in Japan.
Right.
So after graduation from Pakistan, as I mentioned, that I was fascinated by robots. I always want to work on walking robots. Right, so robots that look and feel like humans, and they can walk around normal human environments and do the normal sort of tasks which humans do. So these are called humanoid robots. And I started searching for graduate study opportunities which actually let me work on humanoids. Actually, I made a small biped humanoid robot which was Pakistan's first biped. We called it NUST-Bot 1 during my undergraduate years.
Okay.
Yeah. So we published a research paper on that as well, which was published in 2004. So it documented that it was actually the first robot of Pakistan. And later on, when I went for my PhD, I was working on a life-size humanoid. And as I mentioned, that I was interested in programming from the beginning. And even in my undergraduate years, I used to take a lot of programming courses and study programming on my own from books. I used to go to take courses in institutes and study Linux and scripting and various kinds of programming, object-oriented programming, data structures. A lot of these things, I delved into courses of that on my own, and I used to develop games at that time. I made small games first based on DOS, and then I started working on Windows-based games like Solitaire, Black Queen, and interactive games which could play with you, like players that you could play against. And at that time, I hadn't really studied formal artificial intelligence courses because these were my very early years of engineering studies.
And you were how old at that time?
I was maybe, I think, 19 or 20, something like that. So, but I was really an early starter. I mentioned before the interview, you might remember that I mentioned that my first attempt to write a research paper, which I formally wrote in the form of a paper and sent for review, was when I was in 9th grade in school. So that paper was about vector mechanics, and I sent it to the Journal of Fluid Mechanics at the University of Manchester. So I had no resources to read journals at that time. There was no library in a school that could help me, and I actually went to a lot of libraries in Islamabad, and finally I got a list from Quaid-e-Azam University's library. I got a list of names of journals with editor names and their addresses. That's what I had. And with that, like I tried to select the right journal for my my work that I had done. And how to put that in the form of a paper, etc. I asked different persons. I asked my uncles, my father, my elder brother, how to write it in the form of a paper, and then I composed it and sent for review. So at that time, journals didn't used to accept articles online or anything. They didn't have well-structured website. So I remember that when I used to send my first papers, it was in the form of a letter. So I used to sign a letter by hand, put 3 printed copies of the paper, close it in an envelope, and then used to send that to for review.
And you got published?
At that time, I got the reviews, but like the journal said that this was not the right journal to which this paper should be sent. Like the Journal of Fluid Mechanics told me that I was working on vector mechanics, and this was pure mathematics. It was not related to fluids, so that's why it was not relevant for them. They suggested to me that I should publish in another journal of teaching mathematics or pure mathematics. So I tried one of those journals as well. I think it was University of Exeter or something, which I sent to UK another time, and they said that they also, I actually have a letter from them. They said that the calculations are correct, we agree with the theory, but it has no reference to teaching mathematics. So I had hardly any you could say guidance regarding what sort of journal I should target or something. In big time
here I'd just like to add that when we were in university in England, there the professors would guide you how to get your work published, and where to send it out to, and they told you they actually did it for you. They sent it off for you and all. So I can imagine how tough it must have been for you.
In the university I got that. Like when I came to NUST, I published 3 papers during my undergraduate years. And the first one...
Before university you were trying to publish
Yes,
papers.
I was in 9th grade. I was in school. Yeah, at that time I tried my first journal paper.
Yeah.
So in the university, when I made the first biped robot, and actually I started with practical robot building much earlier than that. It was in my 5th grade that I took up the first project with the industry. So I was like, this was for POF actually, that I tried to make a robot which could actually lift heavy weights, like burning billets of iron. It could lift from the ground and place it on the conveyor belt. So just pick and place robot, simple, with 3 motors. Like initially the idea was to build the entire thing with motors, but with time we realized that the weight was too much for motors to handle with the sort of mechanisms that we have with us. So we developed our own pneumatic and hydraulic lifting mechanisms which we put into the robot. So that was the first robot. Its name was YB1. YB1 stood for Yasar Bilal 1, that we named it, right? So we could we just put our own names there, not more creative than that.
So as a 9th grader, what were you trying to get published exactly?
It was like a paper on vector mechanics, and the idea was that I thought that in our books we used to learn that vectors that are perpendicular to the reference frame cannot be they could not be converted into 2 or 3 vectors, component vectors, if they were perpendicular to that axis. So I developed a new method in which a vector could be broken into a standard, a new method and a new standard by which you could break down a vector into subcomponents, even with reference to a frame which had a component perpendicular to the vector.
So this is like during your metric or O-levels?
Yes, in my 9th grade, in my metric.
Metric.
Yeah.
So at that age when kids are out playing cricket and they're hanging out with their friends and just dying to get out of school and relax, you were doing this, you were publishing these papers.
And it was actually not the first theory that I came up with. I used to regularly try to venture out of the book and understand science and reason on my own, and many of the times I was wrong, and I used to read again and find out that theory was something different that people had made. But many times I thought I was correct. This theory, when my teachers read it, I wrote it. I was just walking around one day going to, I think, Jummah prayer, and I thought of this idea, and I came back and started writing that on a paper from my register. And on the Monday, next Monday, I gave it to one of my teachers to read, and he actually said that this idea he thinks it's innovative. And because it's innovative, so I can try a research paper. And I asked him, so what's a research paper? And then he gave me some idea what a research paper is. And then I started working on that. Right. So I was like, this is why even in my undergraduate years, I knew that I wanted to become a scientist. And even though a lot of people around me, they were working technocracy in government services, etc. Some of my uncles are there in education and research as well. But my father was a technocrat. He was from a government service. And even though that career seemed like more logical choice, with my grandfather and my father, behind me working in government service, but I always wanted to be a scientist. That's what led me into this area. And I was convinced, even in my undergraduate years, that I wanted to take up a PhD. And I very quickly, went on to that path afterwards.
Okay, and then you did your PhD from?
From Japan. I went to Japan from Tohoku University. I am still very actively working with Tohoku University, and actually they have given me an honorary title of a specially appointed professor at Tohoku University. So that's still a big honor for me, because I think I'm the only Pakistani on whom they've trusted.
So what does that work involve?
So it involves, like, for example, when people from Pakistan are applying, I can interview and identify which of these students are really good, who can perform well over there, to help them identify, also to conduct some of the written tests in Pakistan, and later on, sometimes I take students from Pakistan over to Japan as well. They sponsored students from my lab to go to Japan with me and experience the working environment there. So short-term scholarships for students as well.
Right.
Also, many of my students have benefited from Japanese scholarships and also other country scholarships where they've gone and studied.
So why Tokyo University as opposed to, say, MIT or something like that?
I was really into humanoids. So walking robots, and when I studied, there's a website called androidworld.com. So when I really looked at Android, the word Android, now we know that as the operating system for mobile phones, but Android actually means a human-like shaped robot or object. Right? Yeah. So androidworld.com had statistics of which country had how many robots. So I at that time studied that Japan has more humanoid robots than anybody else. The first humanoid robot in the world was Wabot 1, which was made in 1973 by Waseda University in Japan.
Okay.
Later on, Waseda University in 1985 made another humanoid robot, which was the first dynamic humanoid robot of the world, with dynamic stability. So the difference between static and dynamic stability, in very simple words, you can understand that if the robot is moving very slow, so you can say that only gravity is severely affecting its stability, that it would fall only if its center of mass goes out of the region which is right underneath its feet, right? So, but if something starts moving very fast, then even if it is not statically stable, even if it's center of, there are other factors with which you can stabilize it. Like, for example, you can take water inside a small bucket and you can quickly turn your arm like that. The water should normally, if the bucket is static, the water should fall on your head. But if you move it fast enough, it won't fall.
It's like riding a bicycle. If you're going fast enough, you balance.
Force.
If you go slow, then you fall.
Then
off,
you fall.
right?
Yeah. So the first dynamically stable one was again made in Japan in 1985. So this is why I was focused towards Japan. I don't think I'd even tried for many other scholarships. Like, I was totally oriented towards Japan, that I want to go there and work on real life humanoid robots.
After you researched the university and the country's work in humanoid robots.
And I was also into culture as well. I used to watch movies with Japanese martial arts and stuff like that. So I wanted to experience some of that as well. I've tried some of that too. Like, I used to learn Aikido. I learned Aikido for 2 years. It's you could say like judo, but not exactly same. It's a relatively new martial art which was invented during the last century. So I studied that for around 2 years with the Japanese.
And your research on motion planning and humanoids and all, was that done there, or is it here, or that's been cited in many countries and many universities?
Yeah. So I first in my undergrad I was doing programming, but my programs were simple and more concentration was on making the robots and controlling the robots. But in my masters I started practically taking on. I had made AI algorithms even in my undergrad, but at that time the study that I had done was on my own. I had read books and stuff, and even interactive games I used to play. In my in the motion planning research and the AI side of it, which is actually search-based artificial intelligence. So I started with that in my masters when I was doing my masters, and that was in Pakistan at NUST actually. So later on, when I went for my PhD, I actually upgraded some of my algorithms and put in new things into it, and innovated for new algorithms. So I had started my motion planning research when I was in Pakistan. My papers from Pakistan are also cited like that.
Right.
Alhamdulillah. And the ones I wrote from when I was in Japan also got similar citations.
Right.
Then when I came back to Pakistan, I continued with that research into motion planning.
Okay.
So in motion planning, we worked on there was an algorithm called RRT star which MIT invented in 2010. So we made a slightly more advanced version of A.Latif Dar, which we published in 2012. So it was me and two of my students. Both of them are in very elite universities, one in US and another in Europe. So that algorithm was actually taken up by MIT, and I think I might have in my lab somewhere lying around that PhD thesis in which they have directly written that they have adopted our algorithm. This abstraction of A.Latif Dar Smart, which was our algorithm, has been adopted into their algorithm with 3 changes, and they've written whole sections on what these 3 changes are. So it was a big thing for us. After coming back to Pakistan, a research done totally in Pakistan and with undergraduate students working with me, and we were able to get it recognized at that level. So our research into motion planning, even after my PhD, which I did in Pakistan, has been published and cited by a lot of, it's been published by top journals and cited by almost all the major universities you can name, from US, Japan.
So basically we're doing top-notch research right here in Pakistan and here in NUST, and I'm sure other universities as well.
Definitely.
And so you came back from Tokyo here in what capacity now? At NUST you were then a professor.
I was assistant professor at that time. I joined as assistant professor very quickly because I was helping NUST form a new department of robotics and artificial intelligence. So I was, because I was too young, I couldn't be appointed head of department at that time because I had hardly taken any breaks during my studies, and because I knew that I wanted to do my PhD, so I was younger than many other faculty members who joined with me on the same rank at the same time. So I was given the title of deputy HOD I think in June 2010. And in 2013, once the department had become successful and there was significant number of students, we had established labs and we were running stuff. So in 2013, I was formally given the title of head of department. And I think I was probably the youngest, or at least among the youngest head of departments to be named by NUST at that time. So I was also given the award for the overall best teacher of the entire NUST. So NUST has campuses in Islamabad, in Risalpur, in Karachi, in Rawalpindi, and there are thousands of students studying, and definitely more than 1,000 teachers teaching. So they give the best teacher award. The overall best teacher award at that time included a President's Gold Medal and 150,000 rupees prize. It was a very well contested award. So I was lucky that I was able to win it in 2012. So that's, you can say, in January 2010 I entered NUST, and 2012 I was able to win the highest award at that time. So I was very lucky.
So you were the founding head of robotics and artificial intelligence from 2010 and 2020 here at NUST, and you established the MS and PhD programs in this as well. And you also started the lab that we're sitting in right now, the RISE lab. Can you tell us a bit about that? Because you've done some very interesting things in this lab, including a whole robots World Cup where our team went internationally and competed. So
so RISE was it was a name given by the students. It stands for Robotics and Intelligent Systems Engineering. So RISE Lab, when we started working a little bit initially on our motion planning algorithms, and they started to be cited, in many places in the world, and people in Pakistan also started appreciating how our work was being appreciated abroad. And then came RoboCup. Then the first human-like robots, small-sized humanoid robots, which we actually programmed, and their artificial intelligence algorithms we wrote for them to compete at the highest level of the world's highest robotics World Cup's top league of competition.
And these are actual robots playing football and scoring goals and all of that.
So these are 5 to 6 robots on one side, 5 to 6 robots on the other side, and they're playing autonomously soccer against each other. So the robots have they are not allowed to even connect with an offline computer. All of the intelligence we have to program inside the small-sized computer of the robot, and they have to recognize where they're standing in the field, where the lines are, where the goal is, where the ball is, where the other players are, detect which players are on their team's side, which players are on the other team's side, and then make their own decisions about whether they want to take the ball forward by themselves, kick it to the goal, whether they want to pass it to another robot. So they have to play independently but behave collectively as a team. So this is the most complex level of AI robotics, you could say, that in the robotics World Cup, the RoboCup competition. RoboCup, as you know, it's more than a 20 years old competition, and teams from very elite universities come to this highest level of competition, like University of Pennsylvania is there, UT Austin is there. These are the top ranked US universities that have held positions in the top 10 in the world or top 20 in the world. Carnegie Mellon has been there for a long time. University of Pennsylvania, I already mentioned. Osaka University from Japan is one of their most fantastic universities. So all of these big names were there.
And it's very hard to actually get selected for
because
that.
it's not that if you just have a robot and you wrote a program, you can go and compete. They actually have a whole qualifying round in which many times they take a video from you, they take a written like report on how you've programmed the thing, and then they would connect on video and then ask us that create this scenario, do this, let's see what the robot does, and evaluate that like with the international experts sitting over there and looking at what our robots are doing. And it's an international panel, the federation, which looks after RoboCup, and they're experts, so they are looking at it. And with that qualifying procedure, we were the first and the only team from South Asia that actually qualified for it. So there have been headlines on this, not just in Pakistan, but in other, like in India, in Malaysia, in other countries as well. We've seen headlines on this RoboCup project. We were very happy that, this RoboCup success was celebrated all over Pakistan.
Exactly. And how did we fare in the World Cup?
At that time, we faced a lot of difficulties in getting funding to travel for the competition. So I think that since 2014 to 2020, we've been continuously qualifying, but we've got the funding to travel only once until now. That was for Germany, I think in 2016. And even at that time, the funding we got was so, I think, just less than 1 week before the contest, and barely enough time for students to get visas and travel. Still they managed to travel, but they missed a couple of games before they actually entered. So with the first few games missed, they didn't have a chance to qualify for the semi-final. But still they went there, and what they told me is that because we were working in our carpets and stuff are not those exact standard carpets which are available in Europe or in the US, their students can prepare in the exact same kind of conditions which the RoboCup actual field will be like. But we try to create similar condition in Pakistan. So, because of that, our robots were much robust. When they took the field outdoors, and they set up an astroturf on which the robots were supposed to walk. So many robots from the external foreign universities were falling on that, but our robot was walking very, stably. It was stable there as well. Amazing. So some other universities, let me not name them, but some other universities were asking our students, what sort of parameters we've used, so that it's a very good environment in RoboCup. It's science, and people are genuinely focused towards science. So more than just beating somebody else and taking a position, it's about sharing science. Many universities actually make their algorithms public, and you can benefit from seeing how they've done it. They actually publish it in the form of a book as well, that every year after RoboCup in Springer, they publish a proper book in which the scientific content is given, how the teams have programmed their, their robots this year. So if you want to take inspiration from them, the target of RoboCup is that by the year 2050, the world has to prepare one robot team in which the algorithms could come together from anywhere. That's why there's collaboration as well. One robot team in 2050 which should play the world champion human football team.
So, Professor Yasir, we were talking about the RoboCup competition that the students from NUST went and they got involved in and all. We were talking about some of the limitations we have. However, at that time, I remember your students also utilizing those robots and telling us that they were sort of developing them to help autistic children and things like that. So can you tell us a little bit about that, the work that you're doing here in the RISE lab, and we'll also talk about the Center for Artificial Intelligence. How is this now going to help Pakistan, and in what fields? I know from our previous interaction with you and your students, you're making prosthetic hands and things like that for amputees, and wonderful work, really. And then you've got this amazing artificial intelligence-based wheelchair. Now, tell us a bit about these projects.
Right. So you remembered my projects. Thank you for that. And in RoboCup, when we children many times come to our lab to actually visit the lab, and from many schools there are visits to the lab as well. So I noticed that when they saw a real-life humanoid walking around and kicking the ball and playing football, they were just mesmerized by that.
I was too, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Happy to know that. And based on that, me and some of our researchers, we started thinking that why not use this attention grabbing capability of these humanoid robots with children who have difficulty concentrating on things and actually giving attention towards one particular object. So that is the autism problem, that children, for example, cannot concentrate on one particular thing for a long time. Their attention would go away. So we collaborated first with Head Start School in Islamabad. They have some autistic children, and then the Autism Research Center here in E11 in Islamabad. So we collaborated with them and actually did a months-long, you could say, therapy in which we made several kinds of motions with the robots. And it was a three-step therapy. First was involvement, that for the most severe level of autism, the robot would just do some interesting stuff, and we would see for how much time we can keep the attention of the child towards the robot. Then we would see that how much, like the second word was imitation. So involvement and then imitation. That the robot would do something and we would ask the child to imitate the robot. So that is for a relatively better level of autism. And the third was interaction. The robot would actually play soccer with the child. That the robot would kick the ball to the child and the child would kick the ball back to the robot. So this was three-step therapy. Also, the therapy had the capability that during the therapy, if the robot saw that the child is doing well with the therapy, it would upgrade it to a more higher level of stimulus. So it wasn't automatically adjusting, so adaptive therapy, which we did for the children.
Do we ever foresee a future where robots can be sort of playmates for children?
Yes,
with busy working mothers and things like that?
For sure, of course. And like as we did with this autism therapy, we found that the results were really amazing. That the kind of at least for 2 children, we could see measurable improvement. That in their behavior, you could see difference. That now they are much more engaging with the people. And for many other students whose the improvement was not that visible in the behavior, we have reading from the brain as well. That how much attention is being sparked in the child with every successive experiment taking place, and we could see marked improvement. So robots coming into daily life have a lot of good therapeutic effect. And if anything can, when I presented this algorithm in China once, I was there for a keynote speech at one of the conferences. One of the professors said to me that if these robots can become playmates, maybe the children can give up looking at screens all the day with a mobile phone.
It's more interactive than...
We also built this kind of thing. We made a small robot. We have videos of that as well. We built a small robot in which you could put the screen of your mobile phone on top of a physical robot. And the robot would walk around. The screen would give features like, for example, smiling or being sad or something, and the whole robot would behave together with that screen and give that kind of gestures.
Amazing.
So that's also built in this type. You can see that robot too.
Okay.
And also we built we have 4 themes in which we worked in Rise Lab. One was humanoid or walking robots, in which these projects were there. The other was human robot interaction, in which we did this therapy project. Then is mobile robotics. In mobile robotics, one of our well-recognized projects that also won some international acclaim, and people invited us for keynote talks, which you also remembered, was that intelligent wheelchair project. It's a joint project in collaboration with Sakura Wheelchairs of Japan, which is actually an NGO formed by a company called Saito Kobo in Tokyo. So they work for the severely disabled people and also help disabled persons in Pakistan by donating technology,
So this for paraplegic people and things like
paraplegic people, or those who got damaged their limbs or something in an accident, any kind of disabled persons who require a wheelchair. So they donate wheelchairs to them. Also, they're interested in research for helping the severely disabled people. So for example, somebody who can't move anything below his neck would also have trouble moving even a joystick. So we've developed several features for them. They can drive a wheelchair just by using their brain. So using electroencephalography.
Really?
Yeah. They can drive
They don't
a
have to
wheelchair.
speak it. They're just thinking it.
Yeah.
And
So
the wheelchair works.
Yeah. It requires some training. Like we have some software on which a person can sit, and there's a levitated box in front of him. We train the person that if he frowns, for example, the box would come close to him. Or if he does another action, the box would go away. Right? So the person trains how to control some of his brain activity, his or her brain activity, and then use those 2 or 3 features that the person can control in his brain to actually run the wheelchair. So one of those features can be planted to give the command to the wheelchair to go right, the other could be to go left.
Wow.
Yeah,
so can that wheelchair do that now? The one over here? Can we show that on our program?
Yes, of course, and I'll give you videos of that as well.
That's brilliant.
Because it requires training for the students to actually sit and train on how to drive the wheelchair with that kind of brain signal.
Wow. And there's a little robot in front of the wheelchair. What does that do?
This is Pepper. So Pepper is for human-robot interaction, and it is a cobot, a kind of coexisting robot. As you said, that in the future robots would help people around in their everyday environment. So it's it's a robot which can freely move around in a human environment, pick and place stuff, and like this is, we are also working on projects in which you are present in one place and the robot is present in another place, and you can operate something using that robot using virtual reality, for example. So it's projected on a screen and the robot can operate, but that's yet in experimental stage. That it's just a new robot and we are starting on experiments with these.
Okay.
So also with the wheelchair, you can drive the wheelchair around using signal from your eyeball. So if a person, for example, has trouble concentrating, his brain for a long time to actually steer the wheelchair, he can actually drive the wheelchair by moving his eyeball right or left. We have image processing algorithms which where there's a camera in front of the eye, and the camera actually looks at the eyeball, and we can see where the eyeball is going. If it's going right, it means turn right. If it's going left, it means turn left. So by that kind of interface also you can drive it. There are other interfaces, like we've done experiments that if you just walk in front of the wheelchair will follow you. So like if you're going to a hospital, so and you want to like take somebody around, this kind of wheelchair cannot be pushed by someone because like it's motorized and you can't just push it by yourself. So you can just walk in front of the wheelchair would follow you. Another feature which was actually commercially liked very much, and now it has started appearing in some commercial wheelchairs as well. So that was mobile phone based wheelchair steering. So this was just a simple feature that we just implemented for our convenience. It was not even a very research heavy thing. But now wheelchairs in Japan and US and other places have that feature coming in as a product. We wish that the Pakistani industry would think one step forward and introduce products for the first time in the world, because we are the ones who developed it for the first time in Pakistan, at least in showcasing. We don't know any other who developed it that time, and if it had been picked up by some of our industry and commercialized abroad, maybe we would have been the market leaders in the world.
Right. So now what I'd like to ask you, as chairman of the National Center for Artificial Intelligence, is a relatively new organization that's been formed over the last few years, and you've just got your work started. So naturally they've put the right person for the right job there, because you'll be taking this forward and all your visions and all for the future. Can you share this with us, please? Where do you foresee artificial intelligence going now in Pakistan? We've talked about it in the medical field, but how about in industry? Do we foresee driverless cars? Do we see robots performing different tasks for us, etc.? And is artificial intelligence sort of threatening to our people's jobs, or is it going to help us?
I think that if we don't adopt artificial intelligence, we are going to lose a lot of jobs. Why? Because artificial intelligence puts products at a whole new level of capability. So in future, for example, when self-driving cars or cars with advanced safety features, for example, cars which have airbags or which can prevent an accident, for example, if they have maneuvering capabilities and can help prevent an accident, if they are become the normal standard in the world, then we only have hope of being able to sell our automotives anywhere in the world, if we develop any in the future, if we have that kind of technology in there. Let me start with the smaller, simpler examples that are more closer to heart. For example, we've seen the project of Digital Pakistan, that we want to digitize the entire Pakistan.
Yeah.
That would involve digitizing all our records, including land records, many of which are in Urdu language and handwritten. So to convert them into digital records requires what field? It requires AI. So AI actually is the OCR, the optical character recognition. When you scan a document, the characters are picked out from that. For English, now you can do it with a simple Adobe reader as well, or a simple scanner can do it as well, but not for Urdu language. So that's our own software which can do that. In National Center for Artificial Intelligence, we have our own algorithms which actually can do this kind of things, and we are actually doing it for many applications. Like one application which was also announced at that time, the Chief Justice didn't announce the name of the organization working with them, but we were actually helping them as well, and we have developed some stuff. We are working with the Supreme Court and Law Justice Commission of Pakistan to actually digitize their records and pick up, for example, writings in Urdu, like putting them into the right categories, and then this project will go a long way, inshallah, and helping to even build summaries of cases and presenting to judges on the day one that the case is put in front of them, right?
So will that speed up the cases?
It should definitely,
Okay.
because there are judges are really overloaded with work.
Yes.
Like there are so much, like even if with a number of judges that they are there, they work 24 hours a day, still there'll be cases pending. So for example, and there's another technical issue as well. For example, if some case is decided yesterday in Karachi, it is relevant for decision of a case being decided in Islamabad if it's of a similar nature. Because law doesn't work with only the books of law. It also involves all the precedents, right? So that has to all automatically go into some database, and that database has to be linked together nationwide, and from that the cases have to be picked up as a reference and presented to the judge at the same time. Also, if it's left to the lawyers will present only those cases in front of the judge which are relevant for their own cases, right? So, but the judge should have access to a repository in which the judge can find out which relevant cases are there and should be able to study independent of what the lawyer is presenting, right? So for that kind of a thing, first we have to digitize all the legal history of Pakistan, put it into an organized database, and then an AI-based algorithm to search through that database, put together those summaries and help the judge arrive at a quick judgment. Same has to be done for the land records, for example. So most of the land records in Pakistan with the patwaris and many others, they are all maintained manually, which actually make them prone to corruption.
It's very hard to access them.
Very hard to access them as well. So if these, like the modern societies actually maintain the data digitally, but what's going to help the previous data, be converted into a form where it can be digitized? So that again AI can do. Then we have products which are relevant for the media. For example, we have our software which can actually listen to and watch all the television streams at the same time. It can look at which face is coming up where, for example, to see which kind of coverage is being given, to gauge people's interest as well, and to see which channel has which kind of trend of coverage. And we can actually listen to what's being said and actually write that down. We can actually read all the tickers and convert that to text as well. So we can show you a demo of that. So that's already existing. So like for maintaining standards, for a lot of things like, and gauging people's interests, it could be useful even for the media houses themselves, not just for a watchdog like Pamela, which may be looking over the media, but also for the media houses. Like if they make
comparative purposes.
Yes. So what kind of programs are being made which are getting people interested? So what sort of program they should be showing? Right? So exactly. So for this kind of thing, it could be very interesting. And they could also watch, for example, what the international media is covering. So the media owner could have a summary on his table that in the international media, this news is getting this much coverage, for example.
Right. So for commercial purposes, the Center of Artificial Intelligence, do you encourage entrepreneurship in AI? People developing a product and then selling it nationally and internationally. How does that work out?
So first of all, National Center of Artificial Intelligence is based on a consortium model. And how these labs have been selected, so why the National Center? Because lots of people are making AI. There are companies as well, there are startups as well. So first, why the National Center for AI? And then the potential of why their products would sell, right? So National Center for AI was a competitive grant. A Higher Education Commission invited all the universities to submit their bids based on what work on AI they have done so far and what next work they will do if they are given funded by the government, and how this is related to the national progress. So all the universities were competing for this one national center, and we were lucky that we came up at the top. We won as the first place in Pakistan, and in total there are 6 universities with 9 labs with their heads having exceptional background in artificial intelligence and experts of the relevant field. This example of reading the text, commercializing and putting all that thing into data is just the expertise of one of these PhDs. Out of all these 9 labs, each lab has around 3 to 4 PhDs in it, and we have around a staff of around 222 people, which are officers and researchers across Pakistan. So Islamabad, Peshawar, Lahore, Karachi is the presence in 6 different universities. So to name, NUST is one of them, which has the lead role. ComSats is there in Islamabad, which has one of the labs. There is in UT Peshawar. In Peshawar, there are 2 labs in UT Peshawar. Then there is in Lahore, there is UT Lahore and Punjab University. And then in Karachi, there is LED University Karachi. So all of the experts are working in their specialized areas. In entrepreneurship, it is a target for all the labs that not just publish papers, they have targets for publishing papers as well, because they have to do genuine novel research which is of international standard as well. And what other standard, what other standard would you set? Many people we see in Pakistan saying that there shouldn't be research papers, but if there shouldn't be research papers, then what standard should be set to actually judge if the research is of international standard or not? Then there is entrepreneurship which actually links the research with Pakistan's economy. So according to our PC1, there's a target for every lab that they must take 2 products into a company level like thing. Like they should convert them into private limited companies, into startups which actually sell the product in the Pakistani market.
So this is really encouraging
Yeah.
your brainy youth who
And they
have
have
these
done
ideas.
so. And they have done so.
Yeah.
Like for example, there have been products like from Karachi, one of our labs made a product in which they judge the quality of rice which is being exported, right? So huge amount of rice is coming in, and you have to judge based on the fiber, based on the grain size, yeah, and the color. You have to judge. So artificial intelligence algorithms are being used to judge that. Also for tourism, we have made augmented reality based maps, for example. So I've heard many times the PM speak about it, that tourism is probably the most important thing for Pakistan, and it could boost our economy. So what we've done is that we've made augmented reality based maps. Initially we've made it for universities, that you can point it and you can point it at a certain place in a building, and it will label out what's where, and it could guide you around. So the similar one could be there for shopping malls, similar ones could be there for tourist destinations like Mohenjo-daro or Taxila or other places. It could actually have an automatic commentary as well. You could pick the language and it could have automatic commentary coming with it. Then we have algorithms for smart city. For example, for the flow of traffic, monitoring traffic, we have our own algorithms which actually detect and understand and recognize cars. They pick up their number plates. We can actually classify all of this data in real time, and for example, even suggest, for example, this could be the next stage. Right now we can understand the cars, but we can make planning algorithms with a history in motion planning. We can give algorithms on how to better control the traffic, right? So how the traffic can be managed. In fact, one of our labs, the agent-based computation modeling lab at Punjab University, is developing an algorithm for that as well. Then there are algorithms, for example, we see incidents of theft, for example, in ATM, somebody comes in, tries to grab someone, take money. So we have our own algorithms which can detect, for example, presence of any firearm, or even without a firearm, if a person is trying to manhandle someone or a child is being kidnapped, using surveillance cameras we can pick up that information, and we already have those algorithms demonstratable, so we can differentiate between someone holding someone's hand to handshake it, or if someone is holding an arm and dragging somebody somewhere. If two people are hugging or two people are fighting, we can tell difference between that.
Okay.
So the panic situations can be pointed out in real time by using our own algorithms.
And then faster response and all of that
Indeed.
stuff.
Then there is a whole lab working on earthquake prediction, disaster management, and giving algorithms for that. There's another lab working on smart mining. So when we dig a mine, there has to be a very precise calculation to actually safeguard the lives of the miners going into the mine.
So let me ask you this as a final question. Is artificial intelligence going to surpass all human capabilities one day, or is it just going to be there to sort of aid us in our lives?
In technology, whichever technology is built to help humans should surpass some of the capability in some sense. For example, a car can run faster than any human can run. But if it doesn't, then what's the use of having a car? Right? So AI, for example, we just saw in one of the recent wars that an AI-based system was shooting the missiles being shot into a country out of the air. That's an AI-based, so that's the superiority of an AI-based technology over some technology which does not have artificial intelligence in it. So if we don't focus on AI, because the world will, right? So if we don't focus, the countries that take the lead in AI will become the tech leaders of the world. Right. So if we want to keep our technology relevant, and if we want to be there as a contributor in technology anywhere in the world, there is no second guesses to this, that we have to give AI the topmost priority. Absolutely. In some fields, AI will become very strong, and in some cases, like for example, in image recognition and face recognition, in one of the competitions, AI algorithms have detected faces even better than humans can. But in a lot of other things, AI is not of that level yet. For example, in creative thinking. In creative thinking, humans are much better than AI. But in repetitive tasks, like for example, recognizing faces, recognizing number plates, in reading stuff from paper, digitizing it, why don't we save human labor from doing this tedious and menial task and use them towards a higher level task which involves real use of a human brain? Okay. So we could say that now, and this was bound to happen from the beginning, because humans from the beginning have been trying to mimic nature. And we've been trying to build microphones that catch air, that's the longitudinal waves, sound waves, the way our ears do. Speakers that pronounce things like we can with our own tongue, right? Cameras which can see like eyes, and look how that has transformed things. Yeah. So the highest level of that technology is the brain, right? So AI is that brain. Now we can put that AI into our daily lives things, and it can make things easier for us. Like if your house could be smart, it could optimize the use of energy for you. The water doesn't get wasted, energy doesn't get wasted, the house adapts to your needs, it can control temperature according to your needs, the road accidents become lesser, the fuel wastage becomes lesser, the environment becomes better. All these benefits are coming out of AI. It will be for us.
And we have to use our discretion in that. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Yasar Ayaz. We've got so many things to talk to you about. We'll hopefully have more shows with you as your work proceeds and all, and the wonderful things that you're doing. Best of luck to you and your team over here in NUST and in the Center for Artificial Intelligence.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on our program today. We had with us the chairman for the National Center for Artificial Intelligence, Professor Dr. Yasar Ayaz. Some very interesting things going on in Pakistan, which we thought we would bring to your knowledge for you to see for yourself what it is that our brilliant scientists and students are doing in our universities and around Pakistan. So we hope you found this program very, very inspirational. I certainly did. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the same program, same day, same time. Sky's the limit.